Part 110. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1091. Accident. Duan Lei's words really made Wang Feng surprised. Duan Lei explained. Because the power needs to be increased, the sound waves emitted by the current sound wave device may make ordinary people feel anxious. Please be careful to control it, because now we have no time to do experiments first. Although Duan Lei had been paying attention to the transformation of the sonic device in the laboratory during this period, he was also observing the situation in the defensive fortress. Therefore, after the transformation of the sonic device was completed, he confirmed that the sonic device could at most make ordinary people emotional. After getting impatient, he directly rejected Chris and Gu Changshen's request to test it first. Duan Lei found that the number of deaths was increasing more and more in the past few days, so he had an ominous premonition, so he was ready to put it into use immediately after the sonic device had just been modified. Duan Lei still doesn't know that his decision has brought the human race back from the brink of extinction. If he really listened to Chris and Gu Changshen's opinions and spent a day or two to conduct experiments, then it is very likely that the human race will really be judged to have failed because of too many deaths of ordinary people. Because the number of deaths is increasing, ordinary people are now extremely frightened. Not to mention sleeping, they don't even dare to close their eyes for a while, for fear that they will fall asleep directly. So now basically all ordinary people have bloodshot eyes, and there is no way to use the previous method to tell whether a person has been invaded by soul creatures. And Duan Lei's previous judgment was correct. These soul creatures do not need to stay in a person's body all the time. After planting that kind of shadow in the brains of ordinary people, they can attack the next target. People who have been cast shadows before will slowly fall into illusions and eventually die. Compared with the method where they stay in a person's body until he dies, this method is naturally much slower, but this can make more humans fall into illusions in a short period of time. These soul creatures naturally know their missions. In fact, it is not that they cannot invade the bodies of those enhancers or evolvers and attack them, but this will only increase their consumption and make them easily detected by the human race. During this period of time, these soul creatures have planted illusion shadows in the brains of more than half of the human race. As long as these humans die, their guarding mission will be completed, and the human race will naturally be wiped out by the entire race. They have no grudges against the human race. In fact, the creatures on this level should be called phantoms. They are a very strange creature that has no real body and is similar to the human soul. Because they have no body, they do not need any base or camp. Instead, they roam freely between heaven and earth, and are basically everywhere. As long as there are living things, they exist. The conditions for their survival are very strange. They must be in a place with other creatures before they can survive, because the nourishment for their survival is the energy emitted by other creatures when they are dreaming. They have the ability to cause any creature to create an illusion. When the creature successfully enters the illusion, it will emit a strange energy, and this energy is the energy that the phantom relies on to survive. Even before, on Atlantis or the mother planet, there were also such phantoms, but because they almost never killed any living creatures, no one really noticed their existence. Even among the human race, whether it is the home planet or Wang Feng and others, they have regarded dreaming as something that humans have originally. They have never thought that without the existence of these phantoms, humans would not be able to dream. This time, because of the Endless Tower, all the phantoms came to this level of the Endless Tower. Originally, the number of these phantoms was basically infinite, but after arriving at the Endless Tower, in this layer, there are only phantoms, so they have lost the energy source they need to survive, so their numbers have dropped sharply. Perhaps if Wang Feng and the others came here in a few more years, the Phantom clan itself would have perished, and there would be no need to bother the human race. It may just be because of the characteristics of the Phantom clan. Therefore, although the number of their deaths has already exceeded 40%, When Wang Feng and the others entered this level, the Endless Tower did not directly count the human race as having passed through. This level is recalculated based on the number of phantom clans after they come in. And with the entry of the human race, the phantom tribe naturally has its own energy, so there are no more deaths of the phantom tribe, but the casualties of the human race begin to increase sharply. Although the phantom tribe basically did not kill people before, now that there are rules, they can only kill. Moreover, the phantom tribe is different from other races. If they want to survive, they must kill the human race. Like other races, they may lose 40% of their own race in exchange for the continuation of their own race. If the phantom tribe does the same thing and lets humans enter the next level, then there will be no other creatures on this level. Because of the rules of the Endless Tower, even if the Terran tribe wants to leave some humans behind, it is also completely impossible for them to provide the energy they require. Therefore, the human race must stop here, otherwise, if it continues, the remaining phantoms will all become extinct because they do not have the energy needed to survive. Therefore, their battle with the human race this time can be regarded as a life and death battle. Either the human race will be exterminated, or the phantom race will be exterminated. There is no third way. Phantoms rarely kill, but that doesn't mean they won't. In the past, sudden deaths that often occurred on Atlantis or the home planet, or people who claimed to have seen ghosts and were frightened to death, were actually the ghosts. Masterpiece. However, the human race at that time did not know the existence of the Phantom Clan, so they attributed all these incidents to overwork or supernatural events. No one thought that the real cause of death of these people was actually caused by another race. After hearing Duan Lei's reminder, Wang Feng did not object. Of course, he also knew that the current situation was urgent, so he immediately ordered that all humans above the enhancer level enter the residential area to prepare for various accidents that are about to happen. Central Control Room, shrink the energy shield and surround the defense fortress. Before activating the modified sonic device, Duan Lei first issued an order to shrink the energy shield of the defensive fortress, because the modified sonic device could only spread the sound waves a little outside the defensive fortress. Duan Lei didn't know if the energy shield could block the phantom, but he had to give it a try anyway, because as long as the energy shield was turned on, it would continue to consume energy, so when they first entered, they did not turn on the energy shield. So none of them know the effect of energy shield on phantoms. However, Duan Lei's order turned into the phantom's message from the King of Hell. Because although the phantom is an invisible life, it is still a life form after all, and it is also composed of energy. Therefore, the defensive shield specially used to isolate energy attacks can just stop the phantom from leaving. Turn on. After Duan Lei issued the previous order, he nodded to Chris, who was already prepared. Chris directly reached out and pressed a red button, and then looked at a screen next to him. The screen displayed a defensive fortress. Because the sound wave device was inside the defensive fortress, the range of the sound waves it emitted was the actual range of the defensive fortress. The scope includes all the space inside, not the size outside the defensive fort. Because it has not been tested after the modification, Chris, Gu Changsheng, and the more than 100 engineering staff who personally participated in the modification did not know whether this sonic device could reach the level they expected. They all looked nervous. Look at that screen. As Chris pressed the red button, the defensive fortress on the screen was quickly filled with a faint red color. When he saw those reds, it was completely filled with the defensive fortress, extending all the way to the energy shield that was already close to the defensive fortress. A little further away, cheers suddenly sounded, and the engineering staff finally breathed a sigh of relief. After this period of intense busyness, I finally achieved the results I wanted. Moreover, it seemed that the people in their laboratory were just waiting to die. Although everyone was busy and there was constant scientific research, the results have come out, but everyone knows that what they are doing now is of no use to the current human race. If the human race fails in the endless tower, then everything they do will naturally be useless and completely useless. Now, at this moment, it can be said that these engineers have truly found the value of their existence. Because this is the first time they have directly participated in this aspect after entering the endless tower, their nervousness can be imagined. Even other scientific researchers are also excited, although they are not involved in this matter. They have worked hard, but after all, this is the result achieved by their laboratory, and everyone feels quite excited. This time it is them, and maybe it will be our turn next time. After the sound wave was emitted, because the sound wave was still outside the range of human hearing, nothing was felt. However, Wang Feng and those who were enhanced or above were paying close attention to those ordinary people. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1092. After seeing Chris send him a successful signal, Duan Lei used the communicator to tell Wang Feng that the defense fortress was now covered by the low-frequency sound waves, and the other warriors, as long as they were above the enhancer, were also notified. In order to prevent ordinary people from panicking, Wang Feng and his men did not tell them that they were going to use sound waves to attack the soul creatures that invaded the defense fortress, so those ordinary people did not know what was happening now. Although there are humans above the enhancer everywhere among them, after all, so many people have died now, it is completely normal for them to take some measures. Moreover, in the eyes of these ordinary people, these strong men are here to protect them. In fact, after experiencing the death of a large number of ordinary people in the past few days, they already know that these strong men among them do not seem to be able to protect them well, but as long as they are there, these ordinary people will feel a little comforted, at least they have not been abandoned. This was the first time that ordinary people had died since entering the Endless Tower. Although there were human casualties in the past, they were all soldiers from the 2nd Legion or the 3rd Legion, and even soldiers from the Hope Expeditionary Force. Therefore, after passing through nearly 200 floors of the Endless Tower, these ordinary people seemed to have gotten used to it. No one among them would die. Even if there were, it would be after all the strong men were killed or injured. In this floor, they really experienced the taste of walking on the edge of death for the first time, because these ordinary people basically all came from the mother planet, so they had not even experienced the end of the world. Although they often heard about how many people had forgotten before, those dead warriors were just a number in their hearts. Moreover, they had already calculated that even if all those warriors died, the casualties of the human race would not reach 60%, so they were not really concerned about the previous numbers. Now, although the death toll has just exceeded 5 digits, and even compared to the number of deaths in the 3rd Legion after entering the Endless Tower, it is much less, but the shock it brought to them is far greater than when they heard about the deaths of the warriors before. The reason is very simple, because this time, the dead are all among them, and none of them know whether they will become one of those numbers in the next moment. This is actually the same as the previous wars between countries. The people who stayed in the rear only care about whether their country has won a big victory. As for how many soldiers are sleeping on the battlefield in this war, except for the families of those soldiers, other people don't really care too much. For them, those killed numbers are just a number used to speculate the scale and severity of the war. Soon, some people in the crowd began to show abnormalities. Originally, these ordinary people were full of fear, because death seemed to be lurking around them. Now with the effect of the sound waves, they couldn't suppress their anxiety. Even if there were soldiers above the enhancer around them, many ordinary people couldn't help but start to go crazy. However, Wang Feng and his men were well prepared. They had already ordered that everyone was not allowed to make noise and keep quiet. Therefore, once an ordinary person showed abnormality, those soldiers above the enhancer would directly rush over and knock him out with a palm. Although this behavior seems to be a bit barbaric, it is completely necessary, because if you don't take a fierce approach to interrupt this situation as soon as it starts to appear, then soon, a large-scale riot will occur. Humans are always the easiest animals to incite, no matter what the circumstances. Every warrior above the enhancer level is performing their tasks diligently. No matter who the madman is, as long as he appears, they will step forward and knock him out, and then not take him away, just let him lie there. Fortunately, Wang Feng had previously spent a lot of life energy to upgrade a large number of people with combat potential in the human race to the level of enhancers and above, so that humans above the enhancer level are barely enough in this situation and can basically control the situation. In addition, some ordinary people seem to have learned from the researchers in those laboratories that as long as they are in the laboratory, they will not be attacked by soul creatures. Therefore, under the threat of life, they also tried to incite others to break through the laboratory guards and enter the laboratory together. Because they don't know that the entire defense fortress has been covered by that kind of sound wave, so now the laboratory is no different from other places. The researchers in the laboratory are not soldiers, especially since the human race is still in its current state, so they are doing a very poor job of keeping secrets. At least some researchers have brought their families into the laboratory to avoid attacks from soul creatures, so the secrets of the laboratory seem to have spread in a small range. They were still cautious before, but now they see that the enhancers have begun to use force against them. Although they only knocked them out, how can they know if this is just the beginning? When the situation is out of control, it is likely that large-scale killings will occur. Therefore, these people finally risked their lives and made themselves safe first. Anyway, the law does not punish the public. Although they knew this before, it did not seem to be very effective for Wang Feng, but now is an emergency period after all, and they cannot help it. Can we start the massacre in advance? After all, people in the defensive fortress are now panicked. If they dare to kill people, it will definitely make other people more afraid, and may cause the situation to directly get out of control. Therefore, these guys are trying to break through with a lucky mentality. It's just that Duan Lei has already expected that this kind of thing might happen. No matter what, the laboratory cannot be destroyed by others. Therefore, Lu Feng had already been sent over to guard the entrance of the laboratory, because he knew that the guards in the laboratory alone would not be able to stop the rioting crowd. Sure enough, when those people clamored and wanted to rush into the laboratory, Lu Feng directly cut off the heads of the leaders who shouted the loudest like a vegetable or a melon, frightening all the people behind. Seeing that these people had begun to think about retreating, Lu Feng did not let them go just like that. He pointed at them with a long knife still dripping with blood and shouted, "Everyone hold their heads and squat down. Anyone who dares not to squat down or tries to escape will be killed without mercy." After seeing several people turning around and running away, Lu Feng caught up with them at extremely fast speeds and directly killed them. These people finally became obedient. They squatted on the ground one by one and held their heads in their hands, as if they were filled with anxiety. Everything has calmed down. After all, soul creatures may not be able to choose them, but the deaths of these people are bloody before their eyes, so these people finally become honest. Even after Lu Feng leaves here, they have no one dare to stand up. As for other parts of the defensive fortress, there is no trouble, because there are willow trees and mutant beehives in the central control hall, and no one dares to rush there. In other places, there are basically no people now, and they are all concentrated. Residential area. Now these ordinary people dare not leave by themselves and go to a place where there is no one. Even among the crowds, they can feel waves of fear. At this time, no one wants to be alone. One day passed quickly. This day made Wang Feng and the others feel quite long, but they also felt very excited because, an hour after turning on the sonic device, not a single human had died. In other words, Chris and the others really succeeded. At least they did curb human death. However, they still don't know whether this sound wave has killed those soul creatures, because they did not hear the familiar voice ringing in their ears, which means that their killing mission on this level has not yet been completed. Not finished. But now they are not sure whether all the soul creatures that invaded the defensive fortress are dead, but their number does not reach 40% of the total number of their group, or whether this sound wave can only neutralize their attack. But it cannot kill them. And Wang Feng and the others did not dare to let go of the energy shield until they figured out these things, so they could only continue to wait. Of course, they are not just waiting. Chris and the others have already started to transform again. This time they are transforming the life detector. They want to modify the band of the life detector to see if it can be used. The life detector directly finds those soul creatures. In the past, these life detectors could also detect those soul creatures, but because these soul creatures were all with humans, they could not distinguish them at all. Now what Chris and the others have to do is to block the function of the life detectors from detecting humans. That is, they want to make the life detector unable to detect human life. If the transformation is successful, only those soul creatures will appear on the life detector, so that they can know whether there are any soul creatures in the defensive fortress, and they can also know whether their sonic attacks can it worked. It's just that transforming the life detector seems to be more complicated. Therefore, it took Chris and the others a full week to complete the transformation. During this week, no ordinary person died. This also made the defense fortress order was restored. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1093. This week, although no one died, there was no sound to remind the human race that they had passed this level. Therefore, Wang Feng and the others still did not know whether the sound waves they emitted killed the phantoms. But fortunately, among the ordinary people now, there is no one with bloodshot eyes. In other words, this sound wave has at least defused the attack of the phantom. In any case, this has at least allowed the human race to this level is invincible. Can we start? Wang Feng looked at Chris and asked. The transformation of the life detector has been completed. They have successfully blocked the human life signal so that the human life signal will no longer appear on the life detector. In fact, they just installed a signal shielding device on the life detector, but because they considered that the phantoms are likely to be all over the entire defensive fortress, and because no one in the human race has died anymore, time is still plenty for them. So it took Chris and the others a full week to complete the transformation. After hearing what Wang Feng said, Chris nodded to Wang Feng, and then turned on the life detector. These should be them. After turning on the life detector, dense red dots suddenly appeared on the screen, and these red dots were still moving. Chris looked at the red dots and said, "It seems our sound waves can only block their attack on us humans, but it is not enough to kill them." Wang Feng and Duan Lei also nodded. Of course, they also saw this. Now it seems very difficult to deal with. Although they have successfully prevented the phantom from attacking humans, if they can't find a real killer, if there is no way to kill these phantoms, the prospects are still not good for them. Judging from the reaction of the life detector, the energy shield should be able to block the phantom, but when the energy shield is turned on, it needs to continue to consume energy. If this stalemate continues, one day they will, because the energy was exhausted and these phantoms had to be let go. Once they are released, it will be difficult to catch them. In fact, Wang Feng and the others do not know that if the stalemate continues like this, the winner will definitely be the human race. Because of the interference of sound waves, those phantoms are no longer able to let humans enter the illusion. Naturally, they cannot get any energy replenishment. Although they have absorbed enough energy some time ago, this does not allow them to enter the illusion. They persisted for too long, at least not until the day the energy shield collapsed. It's a pity that Wang Feng and the others don't know much about phantoms. They don't even know the name of phantoms. They just call them soul creatures. Can you think of other ways to kill these soul creatures? Wang Feng looked at Chris and asked. He really had nothing to do with these phantoms. Because they had no form, Wang Feng and the others had no way to deal with them. Even Wang Feng's Xianyuan sword could not absorb the lives of these phantoms. Energy. We can only try to modify the sound wave device and enhance its frequency to see if it can work on these soul creatures. Chris said solemnly, after all, no one has really seen the phantom, so Chris and the others are not completely sure, and now they can only give it a try. Chris. Didn't you make several small sonic devices? I think you can transform these sonic devices in different ways at the same time. As long as you think they are useful, you can try them all without worrying about wasting resources. Duanlei said. Let those engineers take action together. The entire human race will fully cooperate with you. It is best to find a way to eliminate these soul creatures as soon as possible. Okay. I'll make arrangements right away. After Chris nodded, he walked out directly. Wang Feng and Duanlei stared blankly at the screen without speaking, because there were so many phantoms that the red dots in some places were even directly connected. After a rough look, they estimated the number. At least over 1 billion. After seeing so many phantoms, Wang Feng and Duanlei couldn't help but secretly say they were lucky. Fortunately, Chris and the others discovered the weaknesses of these phantoms, and there happened to be one in the laboratory that was originally useless. The sound wave device allowed the human race to escape. In the following period, Chris led the engineering staff and began to modify the small sound wave devices. They set many sound ranges, and then used these small sound wave devices to correspond to these sound ranges to experiment with illusions. The response of the spirit to these sounds. When they started the experiment, Wang Feng ran to the side and squinted for a while. During this period, he never closed his eyes. Although based on his strength, he would be fine even if he didn't sleep for several months. But after all, human habits are there, and taking a short nap can still relax his spirit. However, just after Wang Feng fell asleep in a daze, he suddenly felt that he was in a strange place. Everyone is here. Stand at attention. A middle-aged man wearing camouflage and a resolute face shouted loudly to a team of about 100 people in front of him. Welcome. Rookie. My code name is Bayonet, you can call me Instructor Bayonet. If you choose to stay, then for a period of time, I will be your instructor, and maybe your comrade in the future. But now, all you need is to listen carefully to every word I say, even every word. Because, this will determine your life. I know that you are all elites from various units. In your own units, you may all be the king of soldiers, but here, you only have one name, Rookie. Don't think that you can become a real special forces soldier after passing the selection and coming here. It's still too early. The middle-aged man patted an armband on his left arm and proudly said. If you want to wear this armband, you still need to pass our Hell Week training. And I can tell you for sure that among you so-called soldier kings, less than 1/3 of you can successfully get this armband, and it may not even reach double digits. Don't think I'm bluffing to scare you. To tell you the truth, there is a chance of death in our training. The previous ratio is, about 1/5, which means that among the 148 of you, about 30 people may die in this week-long training. Therefore, now you still have a chance to choose to quit. I will give you 3 minutes to consider. If you decide to quit, you can leave the queue directly and stand on my right. Remember, if you quit now, it is not shameful, and no one will laugh at you, because everyone has their own concerns. It is no big deal to be afraid of death. Some people are afraid of death for themselves, while some people are afraid of death because of their relatives, because they still have concerns. But once the training begins, you may die in any link. By then, even if you want to quit, it will be too late, so you'd better think it over. Your original unit will not know everything you have experienced here, so after you quit, you can still return to your own unit and continue to be your soldier king, without being a rookie here and suffering. Therefore, quitting is your best choice. Think about it, you are considered to be in the original unit, at least in the army. Is a little famous, but here, even if you really become a special forces soldier, you will be an unknown person. No matter what you do, not many people will know. You don't even have your own name, only a code name. Are you going to give up your glory and continue the assessment here at the risk of your life, or quit immediately, return to your original unit, and enjoy your life as a soldier king? You have to think carefully, this may be related to your life and death. If you choose to stay, then, in your next military career, you may be in danger of life every day, remember. I said every day, not just the next Hell Week. Because Special Forces soldiers are originally soldiers walking on the edge of death, either killing the enemy or being killed by the enemy. You can adapt to such a life. Think about it carefully and ask your heart carefully. 3 minutes. The timer starts. After Bayonet roared for the last time, he looked down at the military watch on his wrist and ignored the soldiers in front of him. The soldiers who had successfully stood out from the selection of tens of thousands of people and thought they were already members of the Special Forces were shocked by Bayonet's previous words. They didn't expect that the cruel selection they had experienced before was not enough to make them real Special Forces. If they wanted to wear the armband representing the highest honor of the infantry, they still needed to go through a training camp called Hell Week. Just from the name, and the death rate announced by Bayonet just now, the elites among these soldiers knew that the cruelty of this Hell Week would definitely be far greater than the selection training they had experienced before. Although these more than 100 people stood out from the elite of more than 10,000 troops, and each of them was a soldier selected from thousands of miles away, but now, many people still have hesitant expressions on their faces. Bayonet is right, sometimes people are afraid of death, not just because they cherish their lives, but because there are too many concerns in their lives. At this time, a very young soldier in the team looked a little confused. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1094. Of course, this young soldier is Wang Feng. The scene at this time is clearly the scene when Wang Feng participated in the Special Forces training and selection. Moreover, Wang Feng now seems to have lost his memory after that, but he vaguely feels that, what he has experienced so far seems to make him feel a little familiar. Madman. Are you wanting to quit? A warrior who was as young as Wang Feng and stood next to Wang Feng asked softly. No. Lazy eye. Wang Feng shook his head and said. I just feel, it seems a bit strange, as if I have experienced this kind of scene before. The soldier before was Duan Lei, who had just joined the army for a little over a year. Like Wang Feng, he was a private. In fact, among all the people selected through the Special Forces training, they were the only 2 privates. The rest were all officers, at worst a second lieutenant. After hearing what Wang Feng said, Duan Lei also shook his head. Although he was a Christian, he didn't quite understand what Wang Feng meant at this time, but since Wang Feng didn't want to quit, it didn't matter to him. Although they did not move, the people in the team began to walk out of the queue one after another, stood at the position designated by the Bayonet instructor just now, and chose to withdraw. When the other people who did not withdraw looked at them, but there was no contempt or pity in his eyes. Being able to get here has fully demonstrated the excellence of these soldiers. As for the reasons for their withdrawal, no one can guess. Just as the Bayonet said, maybe they still have too many concerns, so they would rather give up their dream. This is not a cowardly behavior, it's just that everyone has different opinions. Time's up. Bayonet looked at his watch and shouted loudly, then looked at the soldiers who chose to give up. There was no expression on his face. He just waved his hand and several soldiers came over and took them away. These soldiers will be sent back to them. The original troops continued their previous lives. There are basically only two possibilities for soldiers like this who are sent back to their original units after participating in the selection. One is to be depressed. Even if no one will regard them as losers because they were sent back, because they can enter the selection, they would originally be depressed. It's an honor. But because they have experienced a failure themselves, and this failure, it is very likely that it will accompany them throughout their lives. The other type will continue to work hard and wait for the next selection. People like this will not be defeated by failure. And often, once this kind of soldier is selected for the second or third time, if you pass the selection successfully, you will become a true warrior, and you will be a dazzling new star even in the special forces where elites gather. I'll ask you one last time. Looking at the remaining 80 people, the bayonet instructor shouted again. Are there any who have quit? If you quit now, there will be no punishment. But once I assign the training mission, if you are afraid and shrink from the battle because of the difficulty of the training, I will enforce battlefield discipline and treat you as deserter dealt with. However, the bayonet had no effect this time. The soldiers who decided to stay still stood upright and waited quietly, not even looking around. Very good. Bayonet finally nodded. So. Welcome to join the Special Forces training. Our training will start tomorrow. You have 1 day to rest today, Wild Wolf. Give these rookies clothes. Another heavily armed special soldier agreed directly, then waved to the more than 80 soldiers and said, Rookies. Come and line up to receive your training uniforms. Wang Feng and the others lined up again, then queued up to receive their training uniforms one by one, and then returned to the barracks arranged for them. The barracks were 4-person rooms with numbers posted on the bedsides, which corresponded to the numbers on their training uniforms. So it's easy to find your room and bed. Fortunately, Wang Feng and Duan Lei happened to be in the same barracks, and they had bunk beds. Wang Feng had the upper bunk, and Duan Lei had the bottom bunk. After returning to the barracks, they sorted out their belongings, and the 4 people in the room began to chat. Although they passed the selection together, due to the heavy training, these soldiers were basically unfamiliar with each other. Don't even know the name. Because here, they all only have their own numbers. Past military ranks, names, places of origin, etc. are completely useless here. Alas. 087, 088, you two know each other, right? A very strong-looking warrior asked. This warrior had a dark complexion and a rather burly body. He had performed very well in the previous selections, so Duan Lei and Wang Feng had also paid attention to him. Yes. Squad leader, we are in the same unit and in the same class. My name is Duan Lei, and this is my squad leader, Wang Feng. Hearing the soldier's question, Duan Lei quickly stood up and said, in the army, recruits like them are called squad leader when they see veterans. It has nothing to do with whether the veteran is their squad leader. Haha. Then your bunks are really suitable. 024 smiled and said, because Wang Feng was in Duan Lei's shop, this position, in the army, is usually slept by the squad leader, and the lower bunk is for the new recruits who have just joined the army. In this way, it is easier for the squad leader to take care of the new recruits. Hey. Brothers, let's take a rest. Since participating in the selection, we haven't had a good rest for such a long time. Today we finally have a day of rest. Don't waste it. The soldier with the number 097 who had already climbed onto his bed tilted his head and said. Didn't you hear what that bayonet said? Starting tomorrow, it will be Hell Week. Who knows what methods he will come up with to torture us? Hurry up and have a good sleep. There will be plenty of time to introduce yourself later. 097. I think, it shouldn't be that simple. You'd better not sleep too deeply. In addition, put away your own clothes and change into the training clothes they issued, Otherwise once the emergency assembly is blown, you will easily wear the wrong clothes. Duanlei looked at 097 who was lying on the upper bunk and preparing to sleep and said, "Forget it. They all said that Hell Week will not start until tomorrow, why call an emergency meeting today? If they dare to call it, I will dare to sue them." 097 ignored Duanlei's warning, did not even take off his clothes, and was ready to go to bed in a daze. 097. Don't sleep, get up and clean up, you are not allowed to lie on the bed or sit on the bed, this is a wrong rule. Don't mess around. 024 also felt that Duanlei's words made sense, so he followed suit. Don't speak softly, don't disturb me when I sleep, I need to conserve my energy. Don't call me for dinner. 097 still waved his hand indifferently. 097. You. Wang Feng also opened his mouth to persuade 097, but as soon as he opened his mouth, 097 shouted directly. Hey hey hey. What's wrong with you? If you don't want to rest, forget it, but don't disturb others' rest, okay? Don't bother me anymore, I haven't slept well for many days, I need to rest well. Seeing 097 like this, Duanlei and the other three looked at each other, shook their heads, and then silently went to tidy up their beds, folded the quilt into a square tofu block, and then put their backpacks on the shelf and put their military uniforms in their lockers. 024 looked at the backpack that 097 had left beside the bed, then looked at 097 on the bed, opened his mouth but didn't say anything in the end, bent down to put his backpack on the shelf, looked at Duanlei and Wang Feng, smiled gently, and whispered. My name is Li Dahai. I came from the countryside and have been in the army for 4 years. We both served in the army for 1 year. Wang Feng nodded and whispered. I can see that both of you have 1 limp, not even 2 limps, you must be new recruits. Li Dahai smiled, then looked at 097 again. Do you think they might do something weird today? Duanlei also looked at 097, then said in a louder voice. Not maybe, I'm basically sure that they won't let us go easily. They said that Hell Week will start tomorrow, so can there be peace today? This is the training base for special forces. 097 on the bed moved. He heard what Duanlei said, but in the end, he still didn't choose to get up, but continued to sleep. The current time is only about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. According to military rules, soldiers are not allowed to lie on the bed at this time, not even sitting on the bed. But Duanlei and others have already persuaded 097, but he doesn't care. Everyone has their own ambitions, and they can't force it, especially since they are not very familiar with each other. So, after finishing all their housework, Duanlei, Wang Feng, and Li Dahai stood at the door and chatted. Although the previous selection was indeed exhausting, it was precisely because of this that they could stand now, which basically counted as a rest. That is. Duanlei, who was chatting, suddenly looked outside and frowned. Wang Feng and Li Dahai followed his gaze and saw a group of soldiers walking towards their barracks. Their uniforms were the same as those with bayonets. Quick! Call 097 to get up. Wang Feng shouted hurriedly, and then blocked the door with Duanlei, pretending to chat. Li Dahai rushed in, ran to 097's bed, stretched out his hand and shook his arm. 097. Hurry up and get up and tidy up your housework, they are coming. Who is coming? 097 looked at Li Dahai in a daze and asked. Beep, beep, beep. Before Li Dahai could say anything, a whistle sounded for an emergency assembly. 097's face suddenly changed, and he jumped off the bed, tidied up his military uniform, and rushed out the door. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1095. Seeing 097 rushing out, Lee Dehai couldn't help but shook his head secretly. Is this guy not awake? Rushing out without even bringing a backpack. And he was actually still wearing his previous military uniform. However, Lee Dehai didn't call him. One of them was 097 who had already rushed out, and the other was kind enough to wake him up. However, after he woke up, he rushed out without hesitation. From this point of view, come on, this guy seems to be. Wang Feng and Duan Lei also ran into the room at this time. They thought those people would go directly to their barracks to check, so they blocked the door, trying to buy 097 some time. Therefore, they naturally saw the previous situation. To be honest, 097's performance made them feel a bit excessive. For such a selfish person, it would be difficult for them to trust him with their backs on the battlefield in the future. Duan Lei came to Lee Dehai, patted his shoulder gently and said, "Don't think so much, squad leader, go gather first." Lee Dehai nodded, then ran over to pick up his backpack, and then ran out with Wang Feng and Duan Lei. "Hurry up! Don't dawdle!" Bayonet stood on the playground in front of the barracks and shouted. "How long will it take you to save your speed, also called elite? An emergency gathering? Even the old lady selling popsicles is faster than you." Because it was daytime, a minute and a half after the emergency assembly whistle sounded, all the soldiers selected through the training camp were already assembled on the playground. Looking at the soldiers in front of him, Bayonet seemed to be quite dissatisfied. In fact, according to normal standards, completing the emergency gathering in 1.5 minutes is already very good. 097 seemed to have just reacted at this time, because everyone around him had changed into the training uniforms issued by Bayonet and others, and was carrying a rucksack. He was the only one who was not only wearing his previous military uniform, but also even it's absolutely impossible to get through without even carrying a backpack. Even in an ordinary army, emergency gatherings require a backpack. His current image is really unjustifiable. He was also in a daze before, and after being woken up by Lee Dehai, he heard the emergency assembly whistle was still sounding, and the backpack he had casually thrown under the bed was not there, so he simply ran out first before talking. Anyway, Bayonet and the others had already said before that they had a day off, so they shouldn't be taken out for training. It would be okay if they didn't carry backpacks. 097. Get out of the queue. Because the military uniforms were different and there was no rucksack, 097 was very conspicuous in the team, so the Bayonet hit his number first. 097 quickly ran out of the queue and stood at attention in front of the Bayonet. Send him back to his original unit. Facing 097 in front of him, Bayonet didn't bother to look at him at all and said directly to a soldier beside him. Yes. The soldier behind him agreed directly, and then looked at 097, his eyes seemed very calm. 097. Go back and pack your luggage. 097 was shocked when he heard that he was going to be sent back. Originally, he knew that he would definitely be punished this time, but he felt that his mistake would only cost him a half-day military position, or a 10-kilometer burden. What? I didn't expect that Bayonet would send me back to my original unit without even asking the reason. Report. I don't accept it. 097 straightened his waist suddenly and shouted loudly, he was going to send him back anyway, so he would risk it all. No matter what, he had to fight for himself. Not convinced. Bayonet turned his head and looked at 097, and sneered. Looking back at them and looking at yourself, do you still have the nerve to express your dissatisfaction? Do you think you guys look like a team? Report. 097 did not look back. Of course he knew the difference between himself and those soldiers. The others were wearing the training uniforms issued by them with bayonets. Only he was still wearing the military uniform when he participated in the selection, but he did not think that this was the case. A mistake serious enough to make him leave. Comrade instructor, when you issued the training uniforms before, you did not ask us to put them on immediately. Moreover, you personally said that Hell Week will start tomorrow and we can rest today. As far as I know, the army is giving soldiers a rest. There seems to be no requirement as to which military uniform to wear. Rest. After hearing 097's words, Bayonet frowned. Have you never joined the recruit company? 097 was stunned. What is the problem of Bayonet? Is there any soldier who has not participated in a recruit company? However, he still chose to answer the question about the Bayonet. Report. Participated. Since you have participated, then, did your recruit company commander tell you that when you put on this military uniform, you are no longer an ordinary citizen, but a soldier, a soldier? Do you have a day off? Bayonet asked solemnly, and the question of Bayonet made all the soldiers present think of what the commander of the recruit company said to him when he was in the recruit company. Remember, when you come to the army and put on this military uniform, it means that you have become a soldier who is always ready to fight. For soldiers, there are only two periods: war period and prepare for wartime. You must be ready to fight at any time. Are you ready? Always ready. This was their answer at the time. Looking back now, it seems like it happened yesterday. 097 couldn't help but lower his head. He knew that he seemed to have made a big mistake this time. Wearing this military uniform, you actually have the nerve to tell me that you're taking a break. Bayonet looked at 097 sternly and said, when the enemy's army begins to invade, and when the motherland and the people need you, will you also say, I will rest today? I will go to the battlefield again tomorrow, huh? Which army sent you here? Bayonet asked again. Report. 097 stood at attention and said loudly, I am the captain and commander of the Armored Reconnaissance Battalion directly under the 4th Division of the 2nd Army of the DN Military Region. Ha. Still an ace soldier. Bayonet sneered and said, could it be that in your army, emergency gatherings only require wearing military uniforms? Report. 097 looked back at Wang Feng and the others, and then said, my rucksack turned out to be placed under the bed, and then I went to sleep. When I heard the emergency assembly whistle, I didn't see my rucksack, so. Under the bed. Bayonet frowned, and then said sharply, is there a place for your rucksack under the bed? Bayonet turned around and walked directly towards their dormitory. Because their numbers were posted on the dormitory doors, Bayonet directly entered Wang Feng's dormitory. Less than 10 seconds after the Bayonet went in, he returned again, but his face was quite ugly. Wang Feng's beds were okay, and they were all neatly made according to the military's housekeeping regulations. But 097's bed didn't even have a quilt folded up. Originally, there was no need to fold the quilt for an emergency gathering, but the problem is that it's daytime now, and it's not time to rest. According to military regulations, don't call it sleeping at this time. Even sitting on the bed is considered a violation of housekeeping regulations. After the livid-faced Bayonet returned to the field, he didn't talk nonsense to 097 at all. In his opinion, this kind of soldier was simply a disgrace to the army. Take him away immediately. Send him back to his original unit, and tell their military commander that I think this kind of person is not worthy of being a soldier at all. Bayonet showed no mercy to 097. He loudly announced his decision to deal with 097 in front of the entire team. Hearing this, 097 couldn't help but turn pale, because if this is really the case, not only this training camp, but also I can't even stay in the army anymore. Report. I think it's unfair. It was you who said that we can rest today and Hell Week will start tomorrow. 097 also wants to fight for himself. You can complain to me. Bayonet said calmly without even looking at 097. 097 still wanted to speak, but two soldiers had already come to his side and pulled him away directly. Humph. Did you see that? Is this what you call elites? Bayonet seemed to be still angry and shouted loudly to Wang Feng and the others. I think, let alone elites, you are not even qualified to be soldiers. Wang Feng and the others felt aggrieved. After all, 097 was not them. They couldn't be included just because of 097, right? But looking at the expression on the bayonet, none of them dared to take the lead at this time. Wild Wolf. Take them to the mountains and run a few laps. For the others, go in and check their housekeeping. If anyone is found to be unqualified, tell them to get out. I don't collect garbage here. Bayonet shouted. Yes. Wild Wolf stood up and responded loudly, then turned to Wang Feng and the others. Everyone has it? Turn right, turn. Run. The target is the mountain ahead. Sprint with all your strength. Following Yelang's order, Wang Feng and the others ran towards the mountain like a swarm. Ye Wolf and Bayonet didn't say how long or how many laps they were told to run, so in their eyes, this meant one thing, until you run out of money. Watching Wang Feng and the others running towards the distant mountains, his bayonet eyes were cold, then he turned around and followed the soldiers who went to check their internal affairs, and walked towards their dormitory. At the end of the day, in addition to 097, several more people left here, bringing their total number down to 80. Those few people were also because their quilts were not folded, or they were lying on the bed to rest. And had to quit. After going through such a cruel selection, they were sent back because of something like this. It really made people feel sorry for them, but it also made those who stayed behind more aware of what they would face in the future. What kind of training is it? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1096. The expelled soldiers were not remembered by the remaining soldiers, because from this day on, their Hell Week had already begun, and they had no time and energy to think about other people's affairs. After entering Hell Week, these soldiers finally understood what real hell was. Compared with this week's training, their previous training and assessments were just like children playing house. After Hell Week, the original 80 soldiers who participated in the training were reduced to 25 people, and from the look on Bayonet's face, it seemed that there were only 25 people left, which was considered very satisfactory to him. When the training camp was completely over, the remaining 25 soldiers stood neatly in front of Bayonet. Today was the day when they officially became Special Forces members, and they would get the armband representing the highest honor of the army. Wang Feng stood on the far right of the team. Now he has become the captain of this 25-man team, because in this training camp, Wang Feng was the most relaxed, and even Bayonet felt a little headache about Wang Feng. The purpose of their training is to push every soldier to the edge and squeeze out their potential. This is what they often do. They are very good at it. All other people are also pushed to the edge by them. After the training every day, the soldiers are basically in a state of near collapse. Only Wang Feng, although they repeatedly give Wang Feng special treatment, but Wang Feng is like a bottomless pit. No matter what the intensity of the training is, they feel that they have not really pushed Wang Feng to the limit. This is because, although Wang Feng has lost most of his memory now, the training of Bayonet and others is nothing compared to that of instructor Li Yingning. How could Wang Feng, who can successfully pass Li Yingning's training, be stumped by their training? Although Wang Feng was experiencing an illusion now, for some reason, the memory of Wang Feng's own muscle tissue was still there, as if Wang Feng himself had experienced this, and it was not just like a dream, but only his consciousness was active. Very good. Now you have finally become real Special Forces members. Next, we will divide them into groups, with 7 people in each group. When you go on missions in the future, you will also be in groups. Bayonet stood in front of Wang Feng and his team, and waited for the 2 Special Forces members to distribute their armbands and weapons and equipment before speaking. Wang Feng, the captain of the first team, the sniper of the sniper team, Duan Lei. The deputy captain of the first team, the observer and demolitionist of the sniper team, Li Dehai, the fire support team. Wang Feng and his team of 25 people were divided into 3 groups, and the remaining 4 people were arranged separately. They will team up with the old Special Forces members, or become instructors to continue training other soldiers. After all, no matter how powerful the Special Forces are, the tasks they perform are also highly dangerous, so the losses are also not small, and they need to constantly replenish new blood. As for the 3 teams that Wang Feng asked them to become Special Forces, they did not receive their tasks immediately after becoming Special Forces, but continued to train, and this training was conducted in the form of simulated war, and there was even confrontation between teams, in order to cultivate their tacit understanding. After more than a month of training, Wang Feng and his team finally ushered in their first actual combat mission, destroying a drug lord's nest. On the helicopter, they received a briefing on their mission. Since it was to eliminate the drug lord, there was no need to rescue hostages or capture prisoners, only simple killing, so this kind of mission was the simplest task for them. However, since the drug lords were relatively rich, their weapons and equipment were also quite good, and this time they were going to enter the dense forest and go deep into the drug lord's nest, so this mission was also challenging for them. Because these drug lords are very cunning and have spies everywhere, it is impossible to mobilize a large number of troops to eliminate them. It just so happens that Wang Feng and his team are newcomers, and the drug lords are not so concerned about their movements, so they chose them. This time there are 2 groups, 14 people went to the drug lord's lair, but they entered from 2 directions respectively, and when they were still hundreds of kilometers away from the drug lord's lair, they jumped off the helicopter. The helicopter is too big a target, they dare not get too close, but fortunately for them, 100 kilometers of marching is nothing, even in the mountains where there is no road at all, it is just a common thing for them. After jumping off the helicopter, Wang Feng and his team marched towards the drug lord's lair. This group of drug lords has less than 200 people, all of whom are armed elements, and they are all local mountain people, who are quite familiar with the environment. Therefore, even though Wang Feng and his team knew that they were still far away from the drug lord's lair, they were still cautious and did not dare to relax at all. It took Wang Feng and his team more than 10 hours to approach the drug lord's lair. Moreover, they had avoided more than a dozen traps on the way, including poison arrows, pits full of sharp blades, landmines or booby traps, etc. Fortunately, they remained highly vigilant, so there were no casualties and no traps were triggered. When the drug lord's lair appeared in their sight, Wang Feng and the others stopped moving forward and hid one after another to rest. Because they were now within the drug lord's monitoring range, they could not use radio communication. The other group approached the drug lord's lair in another direction, so they agreed on a time and prepared to attack the drug lord's lair at the same time. Because they didn't know if they would encounter trouble on the road, they left a lot of time in advance for the agreed time, and now, there were still 6 hours until the time to launch the attack. While Wang Feng and the others were resting in a hidden place and recovering their strength, they carefully observed the situation in the drug lord's lair. They found that the drug lord's lair was indeed heavily guarded. There were 6 sentry towers alone, and each of them had there are 2 armed men constantly patrolling. The home base of drug lords is close to the border of their country, so once they enter a battle, they must fight quickly and cannot let these drug lords go to the other side of the border. They are soldiers and cannot enter the border of other countries. They will be seen as an armed invasion, it can easily provoke a war between the 2 countries. The main task of their group is to kill as many drug lords as possible, while the other group is responsible for intercepting drug lords who want to flee to the border. 6 hours passed quickly. When the agreed attack time came, Wang Feng waved his hand gently, and the other 5 people began to move forward quietly. Wang Feng and Duan Lei had already prepared the sniper position is ready for battle. The time now is in the afternoon, and there is still an hour and a half before dark. This is also the time they deliberately chose. Although dark is the best time for a sneak attack, this is in a dense forest, and the drug lords are very concerned about the surrounding people. The environment is quite familiar. Once they launch an attack in the dark, it would be fine if the drug lords fight with them. If they choose to escape, they may not be able to keep many drug lords. And this time is just enough for them to launch an attack with good visibility. An hour and a half of fighting should be enough for them to kill. If the battle situation goes bad, they can also retreat while it is dark, especially now that they are just right. In the direction of backlight, it is very suitable for launching attacks without being disturbed by sunlight. Wang Feng and Duan Lei both used sniper scopes to observe the progress of their teammates. When they saw that they had reached the outskirts of the drug lord's lair and made a gesture to start fighting, the sniper rifles in Wang Feng and Duan Lei's hands finally turned into the soul-seeking messenger. Chirp! Chirp! The sniper rifle equipped with a silencer made 2 soft noises. The 2 militants on the sentry tower facing Wang Feng and the others were shot in the head without even making a sound. The other one was shot in the head. The team had also been lurking for a long time. After these 2 people fell, they also launched an attack. Because Wang Feng and the others specifically fired when the militants on other sentry towers turned their attention to other directions, the deaths of these 2 people did not attract the attention of others, and Wang Feng and the others immediately fired their guns. He turned to the militants on other guard towers. As for the other team, they were unable to seize this opportunity, because it was agreed in advance that Wang Feng and the others would attack first, so they only started sniping after seeing the 2 men fall. Although they also successfully sniped and killed the militants on another guard tower, they were discovered by someone on another guard tower. That person saw that his companion was headshot, and of course he knew what happened, so he gun ready to warn. However, just as he lifted the gun and before he had time to pull the trigger, a bullet accurately hit him in the back of the head, killing him, while his companion was also killed by another bullet. Gone. Subsequently, 4 sniper rifles fired continuously, killing all 12 people on the 6 sentry towers without giving them a chance to raise the alarm. This good start made Wang Feng and the others very happy. And since the drug lord was not alerted, the underground assault team did not expose themselves, but quietly went in, preparing to secretly deal with the sentries on the ground. Unexpectedly, fate is not as good as man. Just when Wang Feng and the others turned the muzzles of their sniper rifles towards the armed men on the ground, preparing to cooperate with the assault team to kill them, a rough voice suddenly sounded. Enemy attack. There was actually a drug lord who accidentally looked at the sentry tower and found that the people on the sentry tower in front of him were missing. So he looked at the other sentry towers and found something was wrong, so he shouted. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1097. Exposed. Attack with all your strength. Wang Feng's face darkened, and he gave an order directly to the communicator. After receiving Wang Feng's order, all 4 sniper rifles, including Wang Feng's, started shooting continuously. The observers of the special forces also brought sniper rifles with them. With guns, in this situation, there is no need for them to find the target. Anyway, the drug lord's lair opposite are all enemies, and killing everyone counts. And the 10 commandos who had approached the drug lord's lair, under Wang Feng's order, rushed directly into the drug lord's lair and launched a fearless charge. This was their first battle after joining the special forces. They must not coward. Amidst the gunfire like exploding beans, the drug lords fell one by one. Although they were also well equipped, their military qualities were still very different in front of the special forces. However, as the saying goes, a master can be beaten to death with random punches. Even though Wang Feng and his team members are all run by the army, after all, the opponent's number exceeds them by too many. After the battle became fierce, 3 of them were still killed by the drug lord. Hit, life lost. Madman. Look at 1 o'clock. Duan Lei's exclamation attracted Wang Feng's attention. Looking along the direction Duan Lei said, Wang Feng was suddenly stunned. According to the mission briefing they had received before, this drug lord's lair only had 100 people. There were many people, but now he saw a large group of people suddenly rushing out from a large barracks. The number of people in this group alone exceeded 200. It turns out that there were only more than 100 people in this drug lord's lair, but in the past few days, another group of drug lords came to discuss business with them, and they happened to be bumped into by Wang Feng and the others. At this time, the other group of drug lords naturally would not stand idly by and join the fight without hesitation. Although they knew that the officers and soldiers who came to encircle and suppress them were not targeting them, after all, they were thieves and faced soldiers. Since ancient times, we have been at odds with each other. We must fight first and then talk. What should we do? Madman. How about we withdraw? Duan Lei turned to look at Wang Feng. With these 200 people plus the original group of drug lords, the total number has reached 400. Although they have killed 30 or 40 people now, there are still 3 more. There are more than 100 drug lords, and with their current number of people, it is impossible to kill them all. Moreover, these drug lords are originally desperados, because they know that even if they are caught, they will die, so it is impossible for them to surrender, and they will definitely fight with them. Keep fighting. Wang Feng frowned, and then directly issued the order. Then, the sniper rifle in his hand began to fire continuously, reaping the lives of the drug lords. If this continues, our entire army will be annihilated. Duan Lei gritted his teeth, shouted loudly, and then started shooting with the sniper rifle in his hand. Our mission is to destroy these drug lords. No matter how many there are, we have to kill them. Wang Feng answered calmly while shooting. From the sniper scope, he saw one of his team members fell again, but he did not think about changing his decision because before setting off, the bayonet had been specially searched for. He told him that this was their first real mission, so they were expected to complete it at all costs. Now they can indeed retreat, because the number of enemies is not more than 100 as stated in the briefing, but more than 400. They can completely use this unexpected situation as their excuse to explain why they retreat. But in Wang Feng's view, since he has received the mission, no matter what changes occur in the situation, he must complete his mission. So what if there are many enemies? If there are many enemies, kill more. Crazy. We don't have enough ammunition. Duan Lei shouted again, because he thought that there were less than 200 enemies beforehand, and they would have to attack for a long distance, so he did not bring so much ammunition. Now that the number of enemies has increased, it will naturally have a great impact on them, and may even cause them to be completely annihilated. Move positions. Wang Feng did not answer Duan Lei's words. Instead, he shouted loudly, left his original position, and ran towards another sniper position that had been prepared. They have set up 6 sniper positions here before, because it is impossible for snipers to hide in one place to snipe. Even if there is a small delay, their positions will still be noticed by drug lords. Sure enough, they just left. In 10 seconds, their previous sniper position was destroyed by the drug lord with 40 fire. If they hadn't moved, they would have been dead by now. Madman. Order to retreat. We can't fight any longer, otherwise no one will be able to leave. As soon as Duan Lei entered the sniper position, he shouted to Wang Feng. Stop talking. Attack quickly. While Wang Feng killed a drug lord's machine gunner, he said calmly. At this time, Wang Feng felt more and more wrong in his heart. Although he also knew that his decision seemed a bit reckless, at least he should have been able to let those people go. The commandos retreat first and fight guerrilla warfare with drug lords in the jungle. Although this is the territory of drug lords, and they are far more familiar with this jungle than themselves, they are special forces after all. If they fight guerrilla warfare, drug lords are definitely not their opponents. But Wang Feng still issued the order to attack just now. Even he himself didn't know why he issued this order that was somewhat unwise and might even cause their entire army to be annihilated. Seeing the drug lords drowning the commandos below like a tide, Wang Feng suddenly stopped shooting, and then looked at Duan Lei beside him. "They're screwed!" Duan Lei shouted hysterically. "It's all because of your order that they were all destroyed, and now we can't run away. Are you finally satisfied?" Looking at Duan Lei intently, Wang Feng suddenly burst out laughing very crazily. "Ha ha ha ha! I finally know. What's wrong? It seems that you still don't know much about Lazy Eye." Duan Lei looked at Wang Feng with a look of horror on his face. "Are you humming crazy? What don't you know about me? I am Duan Lei. They are already coming up, retreat quickly." "Okay. Stop pretending." Wang Feng looked at Duan Lei and said. "Although I don't know why you did this, or how you did it, I have remembered it. Are you sure you want to continue this scene? What kind of show are you playing?" Duan Lei also suddenly became quiet. He looked into Wang Feng's eyes and asked. "What do you remember?" "Tower of the Endless." Wang Feng gently spit out 4 words. "You." There was shock in Duan Lei's eyes, and then he regained his composure. "How did you think of it? Where did I find a flaw? You're overacting." Wang Feng threw aside the sniper rifle in his hand, glanced casually at the drug lord who was already outflanking them, and said lightly. "Liza grew up with me. I have never seen him lose his calm. The hysterical expression like you before should not appear in Liza. I have to admit that you are indeed stronger and can actually drag me into the illusion. However, it is useless. Even if they shoot me now, I will not think that I am dead, so, your plan, considered a failure." Looking at Wang Feng blankly, Duan Lei suddenly sighed softly. "Alas! Sure enough, we will still be exterminated after all. Maybe this is our fate." Following Duan Lei's voice, the surrounding scenery also changed. The jungle and drug lords all disappeared, the gunshots stopped ringing, and the surrounding area fell into darkness. "Genocide." Wang Feng was stunned for a moment, then said. "No need, right? We have no intention of exterminating your clan. Although we have to kill 40% of your clansmen, it is only because of the rules of the Endless Tower. We have no choice but to do so. The human race has never thought of killing anyone. A genocide, except for the cosmic ghost. It's different." Duan Lei shook his head gently and said. "Our race is called Phantom. Unlike other races, we must rely on the energy generated by the dreams of living creatures to survive. However, in the Endless Tower, our level has no one except ourselves. Race, so we can't find the energy to sustain our lives. Before you arrived, a large number of our tribesmen had died, and once you leave, we will once again lose the energy we rely on for survival. There are still many layers in the Endless Tower, and we cannot persist until you successfully reach the top. For a moment. Therefore, failure is annihilation for us. That's why we sacrificed tens of millions of our clan members to drag you into the illusion. Unexpectedly, we still failed and didn't deceive you. Maybe this is fate. Every time the Endless Tower is opened, our Phantom tribe will experience a genocide. Sometimes, we don't even see the breaker at all. Just because of time, the entire army is annihilated. Since you will exterminate the clan every time, how do you know? Wang Feng asked with some confusion. Inherited memory. We, the Phantom Clan, have this inherited memory that you say we don't have. Duan Lei nodded his head and said. Perhaps this is compensation for us. We, the Phantom Clan, will have this inherited memory when we were born. However, we have never thought of this information being revealed by other races. In addition, I can also tell you that our Phantom tribe has actually been in contact with your human race a long time ago, but you have never discovered us, and we have never thought about destroying the human race, because, without you, our tribe in Atlantis or our home planet would not be able to survive. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1098. After hearing the words of Duan Lei, no, it should be from the Phantom Clan, Wang Feng couldn't help being surprised. You mean, you Phantom tribesmen are also there on Atlantis and the mother planet? That's right. The member of the Phantom tribe who still looks like Duan Lei said that now he and Wang Feng are in a void-like darkness, which is somewhat similar to the universe, except that there are no celestial bodies. The energy that our Phantom Clan relies on for survival is not life energy, but an energy we call dream energy. This energy can only be produced in the bodies of intelligent creatures. Have you ever had a dream, right? In fact, your dream is when our people use their racial talents. You enter the dreamland. After you enter the dreamland, dream energy will be generated, which is the energy we rely on to survive. Sometimes, you will find that the scenes you experience seem to be seen in dreams. In fact, it is not that you humans can meet the future, but that our tribe has copied the scenes in the multiverse. Because the more realistic the dream, the more powerful the dream energy you generate will be, and the more beneficial it will be to us. Precisely because the energy we need is generated by your help, we cannot think of exterminating you. In fact, when the human race was born, we already existed, especially in Atlantis or when we were on our home planet. Most of you were still ordinary people, so it was not difficult for us to kill you. But we never kill humans easily, unless some people are so shameless and offend our clansmen that they really fall into the illusion and use the power of the illusion to kill him. Looking at the Phantom Clan member in front of him, Wang Feng suddenly sighed softly, and then said. Then, we should still be enemies next, right? Obviously, because of the rules of the Endless Tower, your neutral attitude towards the human race must change. Regardless of whether you were hostile to the human race before, at least now, if you want to save your people, you must kill more than 60% of our population to complete your mission. In this way, maybe this time the endless road ended directly because of the failure of our human race. This should be your Phantom race's only chance to survive, right? That's right. The Phantom Clan member nodded and said. But, we can no longer complete this task. Now we know that you are actually the real leader of the human race. Therefore, we will drag you into the illusion even if we lose a large number of people's lives. Actually, we originally planned to let you see your friend die because of your mistake in the illusion, and then induce you to commit suicide. In this case, you will truly fall in reality. And taking advantage of the chaos that the human race has fallen into after your death, we can kill those ordinary people again, complete our mission, and continue our race. But now, it seems that we have failed. It seems. Our Phantom Clan still can't break that tradition. Every time the Endless Road opens, our Phantom Clan will be exterminated. In fact, we just want to know, if we can survive the Endless Road, what will happen? What's going on? But it seems impossible now. Forget it, anyway, our Phantom family has inherited memories. When this Endless Road is over, we will still appear in the world, and... After looking at Wang Feng, the Phantom Clan member suddenly smiled. Maybe in the future, our people will be able to recognize you when they see you. I should be in an illusion now, right? Wang Feng looked at this phantom clan member and asked. So, am I sleeping in reality? If you keep me in this illusion, I won't be able to wake up, right? Why do you want to admit defeat? Wang Feng feels very strange now, because now he also knows that he is in an illusion, but he doesn't know how to get rid of this illusion. If this phantom clan member leaves him here like this, even though he is very strong, but spending a long period of time without eating or drinking and sleeping can still make him fall. Although this time is definitely very long, it is not impossible, and in Wang Feng's view, it seems that time is not so urgent for the phantom clan people. At least, there is no time limit in the Endless Tower. Impossible. The phantom tribe people smiled bitterly and shook their heads. If we keep maintaining this illusion and keep you here, we can indeed do it, but we can't afford the price. Your strength is too strong, so to maintain this illusion, the price we need to pay is the sacrifice of our people. Life. Actually, while we are talking now, my people are dying, and the speed is very fast. If we want to drag you to death in this way, I'm afraid we can't do it with all our strength, let alone, once more than 40% of our people die, Wang Feng suddenly realized that it seemed that they could successfully pass this level of the Endless Tower. However, Wang Feng still has a doubt in his heart. Then you don't have to drag me into the illusion. Our sound waves shouldn't kill you, right? We can see you through the life detector. Although no one in our human race has died during this period, it seems that you, the phantom race, no one died. It is true that none of us died. The sound waves you are emitting now cannot kill us, but they can limit our racial talents. As long as the sound waves exist, we cannot let you humans enter the illusion, let alone kill you. Even the energy we need cannot be generated. The phantom clan member shook his head and said. So, if this continues, we will still be annihilated. Moreover, your scientific researchers are constantly changing the frequency of sound waves. They will soon find the band that can kill us. Therefore, I will make a desperate move and want to kill you first. But now it seems that we have failed. This can be regarded as fate. Maybe. Just after saying this, the expression of the phantom clan member suddenly changed, and then he smiled bitterly. Your people have found the band that can kill us. It seems that our conversation is coming to an end. You have won. Wang Feng was stunned, and just about to speak, he suddenly found that the scenery in front of him changed and turned into the scene where he wanted to take a nap before. At this time, Chris's excited voice was heard in his ears. The red dots are constantly decreasing, the shield must be continued, do not cancel it, until we complete the task of this level. Wang Feng stood up quickly and came to Chris. Chris ignored Wang Feng at all. He just stared at the screen in front of him and shouted excitedly. Wang Feng looked at the screen and found that the dense red dots on it were decreasing at a speed that was almost visible to the naked eye. Can you kill the phantom? Chris then looked back at Wang Feng, nodded and said. Well. We have found the sonic frequency that can kill them. Now we have only modified one device, so the number of phantoms in this area is decreasing. Soon we can modify all other devices, and they will all be eliminated by us. At this time, Duan Lei also came to Wang Feng. After looking at Wang Feng, he sighed lightly and said. Fortunately. Although this level is dangerous, we finally made it through. Now that we have found their weakness, victory is only a matter of time. However, we have consumed a lot of life energy on this level. I hope the next level won't be a difficult race like Phantom. Wang Feng nodded, and then sighed softly. Yes. The Phantom clan is really difficult to deal with. The main reason is that their illusions make it difficult to distinguish between true and false. I don't even know if I am in an illusion or in the real world now. Liza. Have you ever been pulled into an illusion by them? Have you ever seen any members of the Phantom clan? Wang Feng suddenly turned to look at Duanlei and asked softly. Duanlei looked at Wang Feng, then shook his head slightly. No. Maybe I don't have any qualifications yet. Wrong. Wang Feng also shook his head. It's not that you are not qualified, but that you are too smart. They feel that they can't deceive you, because the illusion is still an illusion no matter how real it is. Then, Wang Feng suddenly summoned his Xianyuan sword, and without any warning, struck Duanlei with one strike. Puff. Duanlei was caught off guard and was split into two pieces diagonally by Wang Feng. Everyone around him was shocked when they saw this situation. They didn't understand why Wang Feng suddenly attacked Duanlei. Are you crazy? Duanlei struggled to support the upper half of his body with his arms, looked at Wang Feng in disbelief and asked. Why do you want to kill me? Because, you don't act like it? Wang Feng held his Xianyuan sword and said calmly. After Duanlei heard Wang Feng's words, he was suddenly stunned for a while, and the shock on his face slowly disappeared. After a while, he finally sighed, and then his two bodies automatically connected together, stood up, and walked away. Arriving in front of Wang Feng, he looked Wang Feng up and down and asked. Can you tell me where I went wrong? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1099. Wang Feng looked at Duanlei and suddenly laughed. Actually, there shouldn't be lazy eye in the illusion you gave me. Without him, I might not be able to see any clues about the others. Lazy eye and I grew up together, and we are all too familiar with each other. Yes, even from the look in my eyes, I can tell that something is wrong, and it is impossible for lazy eye to worry about the next level of race. It is not something that a smart person like him would do. And your most important loophole is, since lazy eye has never entered your illusion, how did he know that you are the Phantom Clan? Did Lao Huan tell him? Wang Feng's last words stunned the Phantom Clan. Only then did they realize what their biggest flaw was. They were the Phantom Clan, but among the human race, Wang Feng seemed to be the only one who knew their names, or himself. What I just told him is that the human race used to call them soul creatures. This phantom tribe was wondering before, because Wang Feng's sword just now didn't hold back at all, and he obviously wanted to kill Duanlei's rhythm. They felt that even if Wang Feng saw some flaws, he shouldn't dare to. There is so much certainty. However, this cannot be blamed on the Phantom Clan. Of course, they call themselves the Phantom Clan. This is already deeply ingrained, just like humans would not say that they are upright walking creatures with two legs. This is purely out of habit. Alas! Unexpectedly, the Phantom Clan member shook his head and said, It seems we have no choice but to take the last option. But since I can't deceive you, I'll just tell you the truth directly. In fact, we deceived you just to reduce the loss of some tribesmen. Now you have been dragged by us. If you enter the illusion, unless our energy is insufficient or we take the initiative to release you, you will fall into a deep sleep forever. Although to maintain this illusion, we do need to consume the lives of our tribe, but, before we exceed that number, it will be enough to kill you. In fact, you will die anyway, so it is better to fulfill our wishes. This will not only allow us to kill fewer people, but we can also extend your illusion indefinitely. You should know that in our illusion, there is no concept of time. In other words, we can give you a very beautiful dream. Life, this is actually not a loss for you. Isn't life inherently illusory? I remember that at the beginning, many of you humans would rather live in your own dreams than wake up. It looks like you like dreaming too. Wang Feng smiled and said, I can tell you with certainty that this illusion of yours cannot trap me, and I am very curious. Although I am an important member of the human race, even if you kill me, I should only be counted as one in number. No different from ordinary people. And there are lazy eye outside. Even if I fall into a deep sleep, they will never give up on finding a way to eliminate you because of me. So, shouldn't you be more interested in pulling Chris and the others into the illusion? Is it effective? Chris and his team are the biggest threat to you. Instead of dealing with them, you spend more energy to deal with me. There must be some very important reason for this, right? After hearing Wang Feng's words, the faces of the Phantom Clan members changed, but then they returned to normal and said calmly, "You're smart. In fact, it's not just you. Others, including the people in the team you mentioned, have also entered the illusion. Therefore, the failure of your human race is already doomed. I don't want to tell you, just because, if you are desperate and want to stabilize your illusion, we need more energy. You'd better stay in this illusion quietly, forget about us, and treat this illusion as your real life. This will make us feel better. After all, our Phantom tribe has never killed so many people. People. It should be said, you don't have that ability, right?" Wang Feng suddenly laughed softly. "Forget it. That's it for now. Although I don't know why, I can tell from your flawed words that the current state is actually what you want, right? I finally know why the dreams I sometimes have are always a bit inexplicable and even inconsistent with common sense. It's because you guys' IQs are flawed. It's time to top up." After waving to this Phantom Clan member, Wang Feng said goodbye to him politely. "Bye now." Then, Wang Feng directly swung the Xianyuan sword and hit his head. Suddenly, blood burst out. After a flash of red, Wang Feng returned to the defensive fortress again. "Call." Wang Feng, who seemed to be waking up from a nightmare, looked at the people around him who were still busy. Although the scene was very familiar, Wang Feng was still a little unsure whether he was still in the illusion due to his previous experience. I have to say that the Phantom tribe is indeed a bit troublesome because you can't tell whether what you are experiencing is real or illusory. Wang Feng directly activated the blast and then found Duanlei. "What are you doing?" Duanlei looked at Wang Feng, who was staring straight at him, and couldn't help feeling a little scared. Then he looked at Lu Wanting, who was also in the central control room and said, "Did you see the wrong person? I've entered a fantasy world too." Wang Feng said, while his eyes were still staring at Duanlei without blinking, paying attention to every detail of him. "Hi." Duanlei took a breath. "Those guys are so powerful? Aren't only ordinary people affected by them? According to them, to bring me closer to the illusion, they need to consume the lives of their people, which means they have to pay a big price." Wang Feng replied. The Duanlei in front of him was very familiar to Wang Feng, but Wang Feng was still a little unsure. "They want to negotiate with us." Duanlei frowned. "That's not true, because if these Phantom tribes want to survive, they must rely on other creatures to provide them with an energy called dream energy, and they existed among us when they were in Atlantis. Dreams are what they create." Wang Feng shook his head and said, "So, if they want to survive, it is impossible to negotiate with us. They must kill us and end this endless road. Otherwise, even if they can still have 60% of their tribe left, they will. When we broke into the endless tower at the back, we died because there were no creatures to provide them with dream energy. Then what is their purpose of dragging you into the illusion? Is it to tell you their names and origins, as well as their determination to kill us?" Duanlei's brows furrowed even more tightly. "They wanted to kill me, but I found out it was an illusion." Wang Feng replied, then recounted his previous experience, then looked at Duanlei and Lu Wanting and smiled bitterly. "The problem is, I can't tell if I'm still dreaming or not." After hearing Wang Feng's words, Duanlei and Lu Wanting suddenly looked at each other, and the expressions on their faces became a little strange. "What's wrong?" Is there a problem? Wang Feng asked, confused. Now Wang Feng was indeed a little confused. Duan Lei and Lu Wanting in front of him looked normal, but Wang Feng was still afraid that this was still an illusion. Although he didn't know what the Phantom Tribe's purpose was in dragging him into the illusion, Wang Feng really had a headache now. Wind. You just want to know if you are dreaming. Lu Wanting slowly walked up to Wang Feng and asked with a strange expression. Yes. Wang Feng replied blankly. Ah. As soon as Wang Feng finished speaking, Lu Wanting suddenly put her right hand into Wang Feng's clothes, then used two nails to pinch a small piece of meat around Wang Feng's waist, and then rotated it 180 degrees. Seeing this situation, Duan Lei quickly turned his head away, but his trembling shoulders showed that he was working hard to hold back his laughter. Why are you pinching me? Wang Feng was furious. Does it hurt? Lu Wanting suddenly asked with a gentle look on her face. Nonsense. As soon as he shouted these words, Wang Feng was suddenly stunned. Yes. Pain. Only then did Wang Feng understand why Duan Lei and Lu Wanting had such strange expressions when he said he was not sure whether they were still in the illusion. He actually forgot such a simple method. Is it humming common sense that you can't feel pain while dreaming? Moreover, the Phantom Tribe has clearly said that dreams appeared in the human race before, and they were all causing trouble in order to absorb dream energy. Why didn't I think of that? After reaching out and hugging Lu Wanting, and confirming the true feeling again, Wang Feng seemed to finally breathe a sigh of relief and looked at Duan Lei, who was thinking. Liza. What are you thinking about? Why did they drag you into the illusion? Duan Lei turned around and looked at Wang Feng and said. According to what you just said, although there are many inconsistencies in what the Phantom Tribe said, and it seems that their thinking is not very rigorous, at least one thing should be certain, they really need to pull you into the illusion. Consume the lives of their people. Duan Lei pointed at the monitoring screen and said. The light spots on it did appear to decrease before. We thought it was because the sonic device had been successfully modified, but now the light spots have stopped decreasing, and that's just after you appeared. And besides you, it seems that no one above the enhancer level has been pulled into the illusion, so this should be true. In other words, you have something they want. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1100. Looking at Duan Lei's calm analysis, Wang Feng finally confirmed that he was in reality now. This Duan Lei was the Duan Lei he was familiar with, absolutely true. Duan Lei naturally didn't know that Wang Feng was feeling relieved now, but looked at Wang Feng and continued. You said before that those phantoms have sensed that we are about to find the sound wave frequency that can kill them, but looking at the current situation, it is obvious that we have not found it yet, and the reason they took the risk is to race against time with us. And do you have something on you that they can reverse the situation and kill our human race after getting it? Duan Lei turned around and clicked a few times on the control panel. Then, the screen showed the image of the corner where Wang Feng was before. It was the time when Wang Feng just came there and was about to take a rest. After watching for a while, Duan Lei finally breathed a sigh of relief and said. I understand, the Phantom Clan, they actually want to control you. If you don't see that it is an illusion and take that dream as real, the illusion will slowly change, and even let you go back to the time when Atlantis encountered the apocalyptic sky fire. Did you see you just now? Although you are in an illusion, your body is still moving with the dream. I guess this is because the Phantom Clan thinks that you have believed in the illusion they have built for you, and they start to let you try to move your body. Once they succeed, you should return to the Black Dragon City full of zombies, and we will become those zombies in your eyes. This should be their real intention. Wang Feng was stunned. If that was really the case, Duan Lei and Lu Wanting might die under his sword. If this really happened, it would be fine if he stayed in the illusion forever and never woke up. If those phantoms woke him up after killing him, then he would be worse off than dead. Thinking of this, Wang Feng couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat, and even Lu Wanting couldn't help but hug Wang Feng gently, with a face full of fear. Lu Wanting, who has been used to life and death, can accept death now, but if it is Wang Feng who kills her. Xiao Lei. They succeeded. At this time, Lu Feng suddenly rushed in and shouted loudly. Hearing Lu Feng's voice, Duan Lei and Wang Feng were stunned, and then Duan Lei quickly switched the screen to the life detector, and saw that the light spots representing the Phantom Clan were indeed slowly decreasing. Ha 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 ha. Chris and the others are really efficient. Wang Feng was overjoyed, and hurriedly pulled Lu Wanting and the others to rush towards Chris and the others, but Duan Lei did not follow. Since it was successful, he only had to watch the red dots disappear here, and then wait to enter the next level. After Wang Feng and his team came to Chris, they asked him directly and found out that only a low-power sound wave device was working, which could only cover a small area. Because they had to constantly adjust the band before, the red dot did not disappear quickly. However, because they had found the band that could kill the phantom spirit, Chris and his team could cover the entire defense fortress with the sound waves of this band within 10 minutes. As long as the number of phantom spirits left in the defense fortress reached their requirements for passing the level, then, in a maximum of 20 minutes, they could enter the next level. After understanding this, Wang Feng finally breathed a sigh of relief. Even Lu Feng and others who followed him looked relieved. The enemies on this level were too aggrieved and they had no place to use their skills. However, just 2 minutes later, an expeditionary soldier came to find Wang Feng. He said that there was an ordinary person who wanted to talk to Wang Feng and had something very urgent to see him immediately. But he couldn't come here, so he invited Wang Feng to see him, and this ordinary person also said that his name was Phantom Spirit. Wang Feng hesitated when he heard the name Huanling, then looked at Lu Wanting and Lu Feng, and after thinking for a while, he shook his head slowly and said to the soldier, "You, go back and tell that person, just say, their fate, I can't change it, I have great concerns about their abilities, so I can't take risks with my race, I can only say sorry to them." The expeditionary soldier was confused, but since Wang Feng said it, he habitually didn't ask more questions, turned around and left. Looking at the soldier's back, Wang Feng sighed. He knew that this guy called Huanling must be an ordinary person hypnotized by the Huanling tribe, and wanted to talk to him in this way, and the content was nothing more than asking Wang Feng not to kill them all after completing the task, or even take them away from this level. Because the Huanling tribe said very clearly before, if the human race left, they would also be exterminated because they could not get the dream energy. If these phantoms had used this method to communicate with Wang Feng at the beginning, Wang Feng would have agreed, but now Wang Feng didn't dare to do so, because he knew that these phantoms could actually pull him into the illusion. If he left them in the defensive fortress, who knew if they would control others again, or even control himself again. Wang Feng didn't want to have to confirm whether he was sleepwalking every time he got up. Success. Just when Wang Feng was in a daze, Chris shouted excitedly, pulling him back from his thoughts. It turned out that Chris and the others had already adjusted all the sound wave devices, and had created the kind of sound waves that could kill the Phantom tribe. Spread to the entire defensive fortress, and the light spots representing the Phantom clan on the monitoring screen finally began to decrease in large numbers. Chris. When the voice announced that the human race had completed its mission and could enter the next level, Wang Feng hesitated for a moment, and then gently called Chris. Chris turned back directly, only to find that Wang Feng did not continue to speak, as if he was still thinking about something, and his expression seemed very tangled, which made him feel a little strange. "Oh. Turn it off." Wang Feng finally sighed and signaled Chris to turn off the sonic device. Now that he could pass through this layer, Wang Feng did not want to continue killing those phantoms. Although the Phantom tribe killed many humans, and if he had not seen through their illusions, the entire human race would have been destroyed because of them. Wang Feng still had no intention of annihilating the Phantom tribe. There is no hatred between the two sides in killing each other. It is just because of that damn rule that they have to stand on opposite sides. Liza, cancel the shield. Let them out. After Chris turned off the sonic device, Wang Feng looked at the red dots displayed on the screen that had become much sparser, and used the communicator to contact Duan Lei and ask him to lower the shield. After hearing Wang Feng's words, Duan Lei did not hesitate and cancelled the shield directly. After the shield was cancelled, the red dots on the screen fled out of the defense fortress like a swarm of swarms. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. No trace. Wang Feng teleported and came to the portal outside the defensive fortress, and then said through the communicator, "Liza. After confirming that there are no phantoms in the defensive fortress, let me know. If necessary, you can turn on the sonic device again." Clear. Duan Lei's answer is simple. Just when Duan Lei was carefully checking whether there was any phantom clan in the defensive fortress, a phantom of a person suddenly appeared in front of Wang Feng. Perhaps because of previous communication with Wang Feng, this phantom turned out to be appeared in the form of Duan Lei. It's just that this phantom seems quite unreal and is shaking slightly, but Wang Feng already understands that this should be the Phantom Clan. They had wanted to contact Wang Feng before and directly hypnotized an ordinary person. But because Wang Feng was with Chris and the others at that time, the sonic device was there, so they couldn't enter, so they went to find an expeditionary soldier to help spread the message, but Wang Feng didn't see them. Looking at the phantom in front of him, Wang Feng did not speak, but looked at him quietly. "You should know that we killed before." Duan Lei's phantom looked at Wang Feng and said softly, "I know." Wang Feng didn't wait for him to finish, and interrupted him directly. "Just like we want to kill you, we are all trying to survive, so I didn't tell you to kill them all. After completing the task, I stopped and let you out. Fortunately, you understood what I meant and all left, because if you didn't leave, I would continue to turn on the sonic device." Hearing Wang Feng's words, the phantom smiled bitterly and said, "Could it be that, the rest of our tribe can't stay in your defensive fortress?" "Sorry. Can't." Wang Feng shook his head gently and said firmly, "I will not take risks with my own people. Your abilities are very scary to us, and we don't know whether you can adapt to the sound waves of that band in the future. Therefore, for our own safety, we cannot take you in. Yours. But, you should know that if this happens, our race will become extinct." Phantom said with a pleading look. "Maybe. But there's nothing I can do." Wang Feng was not moved by the phantom's expression and shook his head directly, and then walked straight towards the portal.